chisels will be happy. Your knives will be a lot happy. You won't get these weird configurations and that type of thing. All you really need for doing this, I would recommend some kind of, wear some old clothes or an apron, and definitely have a cloth here. Basically, today I'm going to be demonstrating two types of knives, and one is a kind of regular kitchen knife, which is has a lot of chromium and I think a little bit of stainless steel, so they're less rust proof. But also I have some high carbon steel knives that you will definitely want to keep dry. You don't want to leave and let them get moist. If you really want to take care of them, you can use this stuff called Camilla oil, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. Anyway, the first thing, flattening stones. We have these nice flat pieces of glass, 1/4-inch glass at minimum. I guess you can use 1/2-inch glass, but it might cost you a fortune. Something like this size will work fine. Traditionally, you use carborundum for flattening these stones, mainly because carborundum you can just use over and over and over. It doesn't break down, but we have this nice water jet 220 sand that we're going to use, which works perfectly fine. Spread it on here. And before I put the water on, I should show you what a dished stone looks like. So I don't know if you can see it. This is a combination stone. Like
a little bit more this way, so you can see the dish, right?
Okay. So yeah, trust me, there's a dish here. You might be able to see it a little better. Where did I put my? Oh, here, right here. So if you look, you can see maybe a little bit of light or concavity there. But if you can't, trust me, it's not very flat. It's got a little dish, basically from people just going back and forth like that with a chisel and basically dishing it out. Easy to fix though. This is a very rough stone. This is about, I'm gonna guess about a 600. I can't really feel that. I'm going by the color, if the color isn't coming through. But anyway, all I'm gonna do is put some water on this plate and I make a little slurry of sand. Let's see if this will show up a little better. So now you can see I'm hitting the edges and the ends here and getting this thing flat. And you just keep doing this until it does become flat. Add a little water.
How do you know when it's flat, Hayami?
Oh, thanks, Kobe, for the question. Basically, you keep going until you see all this color become solid again. But I think you can see that.
Yeah,
I'm not.
camera.
I think I'll be here for another 5 minutes doing this, and I don't want to bore you guys. But I think you get the general idea. Now, if you don't have a piece of glass, and I've seen people use a sidewalk, but sidewalks aren't always super reliable. So you can always go to a construction site and get a cinder block.
steal a cinder block.
And do it on this too. And these work really well. Believe it or not, these are really, 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 really flat. And they have a lot more surface area.
Is it also faster because they're rougher?
Yeah, well, it could be. It really, I don't know, it could be faster. Let's see. I haven't used a cinder block in a while. Oh, yeah. Well, good call, Kobe. So you can see that did pretty quick work. So it is rougher, it's porous, so you'll get more consistency of flattening, I think. Now, does it matter if everything stays the same thickness? No. I mean, you'll be long gone and giving this to your kids or grandkids by the time this thing is unusable anymore. So, yeah, unless you're just sharpening professionally for forever. Nice, right? So what am I doing next? All right, so I've already prepped some of these stones to be flat. And just like chisels, I'm going to start with something fairly rough. None of my, by the way, if you have pits or cuts, if like little chips, this isn't going to really do it. You may want to take it to a professional grinder to have that done. Because the one thing you don't want to try, I don't recommend going straight to a grinding wheel unless you really, really know what you're doing or have a jig to help you out. Because if you lose the curvature, you may not mind, but somebody who knows what they're doing and borrows your knife may go, what are you guys doing?
I've seen in the past, I don't know if this is good practice, but I've seen people take like a diamond stone or something that's not going to get pitted and just like grind the edge of like the sharp edge of the knife to get rid of those pits. And then, yeah.
Which is a great segue, Kobe, because my other favorite type of sharpening are these diamond plate plates, which almost never have to be flattened. Matter of fact, you can't flatten them. They're not super expensive. They're about 2/3 the cost of a stone.
Don't get them at Harbor Freight because they aren't flat to begin with.
Right. I always go with this brand called DMT, which is, DMT, which is I think the first diamond coated plate that was designed for sharpening knives or whatever. So you literally can take this thing and sharpen up. I use it for gardening things. They come in a variety of different, courses. And these all, this set probably costs $25. This thing probably costs $35. Once again, they'll last forever. You are not going to chip this thing. You can sharpen, and I've probably used this for 10 years. And basically, the one thing you don't want to do is just leave it in water, like you can do with your stones. But anyway, if you do have small nicks and things, you may want to try getting out with this because they tend to be a little more aggressive than stones here. And if you're using a knife like this, you're not going to chip it. I mean, you're not going to make it worse. You can make it worse, but you're most likely not. Since I have this out, I'm going to start with this. And this knife here, this knife here, somebody just gave it to me. And
it's important to note that Hayami keeps his knife sharper than this one.
Yeah, so to demonstrate, I don't know if you can see
this. Yeah, definitely.
So this is just cardboard. It's not cutting it. It's basically crushing it. I'm not using the back end, so that's not good. A nice sharp knife will just go through that. It's not crushing it. Back to this thing. Believe it or not, it doesn't need a whole lot of work, but I'm going to go to this diamond stone first because I just prefer using diamond stones on kind of this chef's knife, which is it's not it's basically stainless steel, a bit of chromium, not high carbon steel, so it won't rust. It's a more durable knife. General chef's knife. I think this is a chef's knife, so I don't know. It's kind of a nicer thing than I own. But anyway, to start with this, basically a knife like this has two edges, a really fine edge down here, and that's all you're really sharpening, which is great. The tough thing is to find that edge and to be able to ride that edge.
Is this something worth drawing?
I don't know. I can try to draw it. Yeah, let's try to draw it. So basically, when you get there are two types of sharpening you can do, and so when you have a knife edge, how am I going to draw this? So basically, you have the back of the knife, you have your knife edge here, and right down here, you have a very fine edge. You know, it's literally 0.5 millimeter wide. Now it's the same on the other side. So you actually have two edges that you're trying to sharpen to a point. Now, if you look at a microscopic scale, this
Draw really big. Draw really big if you can.
Oh yeah. This knife edge will look very frayed. Literally, you'll have parts going this way, parts going this way at the edge. Looks like crap. So to quickly sharpen this, you'll see a lot of chefs in the kitchen, because they want to get this thing done really quickly, is take this thing and just ride it back and forth like that. I hate doing this because this isn't the proper tool to use. But basically, all you're doing, you are sharpening this to a point. You're taking these frayed edges and pushing them back in line so they're kind of serrated.
Oh, interesting.
But you're not necessarily sharpening it, which is fine, which is great for this kitchen knife.
Honing.
You can, yeah, it's kind of more honing, but it's quicker. You know, just like any job, the faster you can do it and get a good effect, the better. But when you really need to sharpen up a knife, you know, eventually that thing's going to dull out. You're going to try to, you'll need to sharpen it. And with these type of knives, I like using a diamond stone because I tend to, because it's very easy to cut into these softer ceramic stones. But if you have the ceramic stones, just a little bit of practice, a little bit of kind of working those muscle memories, yeah, you'll be able to be fine. Let's see. So what I'm trying to do is basically, I shouldn't have thrown away that drawing, is I'm actually trying to take those rough edges and I'm actually trying to get, I'm going to sharpen it and on these things and get rid of them. Yes, I'm realigning them.
So in honing, you're just realigning them.
Yes.
In sharpening, true sharpening, you're getting rid of them.
You're getting rid of those and creating a brand new edge. So
that's a good distinction.
Yeah. So for here, now this is a lot of feel, and you're thinking, how am I going to ride this this half millimeter edge? Well, let me start with this. First thing you want to get used to is using both hands. I put both hands or my left hand on this edge here, and I really try to lock out this hand. And believe it or not, you're not necessarily gonna be able to feel this, but you're gonna be able to hear that edge riding on the. So it's a nice. And believe it or not, it doesn't take a whole heck of a lot. And if you pay attention to this angle that I'm trying to produce, or I'm using, I'm trying to keep it very consistent. And I'll kind of explain why in a second. And with the tip, when you're starting out, it's okay to just be very slow with the tip, because this is a thing you can kind of jam, if anything. But once you get it going, it's pretty smooth. Not a lot of pressure. You're not bearing down. You're just trying to push this thing and glide it, I don't know, across your stone. Now, if I had a smoother stone, that's probably good at this point. Oh, and a nice rag, doesn't have to be clean, just to clean this off is really, pretty important. If I were to get another stone, let's say this is 1,000 grit, this is a 4,000 grit, that's all I really have to do. Most of the time, I'll just stick with this and it should be sharp enough. But with a finer stone, what I'm going to do is actually change the angle and come across at a less acute angle, because somebody with really good eyes, this has more to do with, this will make more sense when we do the high carbon steel knives, because you can actually see the sharpening lines a lot better than you can here. Like I couldn't see that.
And you want them to be perpendicular to the knife edge?
Well, so
Or
this is the thing. This is what you're looking for, is when you do it this way, you've got these lines, these serrations. Mm-hmm. So when you change the angle and cut here, and then you look, you know you've sharpened that whole edge because it's very consistent. The lines are different. You know, you have a different set of lines.
It's like when you change grit sharpening at chisel, because there's so much area there, you can see the
right. So I couldn't really tell you the degree I'm at. I'm probably at a 15 degree, and I'm only saying that because I read it. I don't really know. I don't think it really matters. Okay. Let me see.
Do you think you can draw a cross section of that blade on the paper so we can see?
Like this?
Yeah. Like what? Could you kind of explaining a little bit about the two bevels? Yeah. Would it be nice to see?
Yeah. Now I just remember that. Okay, so this is kind of my macros. I'm blowing this up. So you have your two edges. The blade does come, the metal does come down, but at the very edge, it's going to come like that. So, I kind of mentioned you have these little frayed areas on the edge, and now what we're trying to do is just sharpen that. You're actually removing material, so here, and trying to create that edge again. Another good way, which is a little easier to see, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but if I look at the edge.
Bring it way closer.
If you look at the edge, I can pick up dull spots and shiny spots on that edge. So I can usually tell if I've missed areas, or it's really easy. Some people, I don't know how they do it. They dent the blade a little bit. It's their fault. And it'll be really dull. And I basically tell somebody, it's like, we got to grind that out or something of that nature. This looks pretty good. And I'm just changing the light, moving the light down the edge of the blade.
So what would happen if your angle is too sharp? Is there a risk for having too sharp of a cutting angle on the edge of your blade?
I think if it's too extreme, if it's too sharp, it will dull out quicker. But that's the only thing.
Okay.
But if you're cutting meat and stuff like that, it's probably what you want. I'm no chef, so.
More of a chef than me.
Let's see. I don't know if this will work, but it's not great. It's better, but it's not great. Let's see. Sesame business. Let's see if I can. I'm going to take a finer grade. So I'm going to go down to a 6,000 Waterstone. So Waterstones, once again, this is something you can soak in water. You can leave them in there. Just make sure they're not outdoors and you freeze them like I did and have one of them crack. But anyway, take care of your stones. I'm going to try to kind of tune it up and get it a little sharper with this thing. But the same principle, and you'll actually be able to see the metal come off, and that's kind of the exciting part, and better. Ooh. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but it sounds pretty good. It sounds like I'm doing the right thing.
That's what counts.
Yeah, sound. Not what I say necessarily, but how this sounds. And if you're looking at my right arm, it's really locked out. All that's swinging is kind of my shoulder. My elbow's locked out. My wrist is locked out. And this is just practice. This is just And once again, it's not one of those things, and you'll like try to like really grasp it hard. It's just kind of using all of your muscles to lock your arm out. You can rock with it too. I used to do this.
How often do you flatten your stone?
Oh, so good question. So my method of this, I will almost always sharpen in the morning. Kind of a little calmer. I have coffee, whatever in me, but I'm still kind of, the day is quiet. And I'll look and check my stones, but more often than not, I'll just flatten them, take a couple minutes because I'm pretty good at doing it. So they're generally pretty flat, and then just go to town.
So every time you sharpen, but not every knife or not every time you pass it. When Takami was here doing chisels, he was flattening the stone in between every time the metal touched it. He was flattening a lot.
Yeah, he was doing chisels.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah, yeah, I don't do that, but if he's, if he gets a good result, I don't have to do that because my chisels are really good. So, but we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
We'll definitely talk about that.
If anybody has questions to specifically ask, put it in the chat because I do have the chat window open. I can answer. We can try to answer some of those too.
We'll see. I don't know. I can't see these type of knives as well as I can low carbon or high carbon steel knives, but I saw this trick today. This guy was amazing. I don't think this is going to do it, but.
No way. Good attempts.
You'll see people definitely check their knives, and I do it to see kind of if the blade sticks. You're going across blade. You're not going down the spine of the blade. And the other thing to do is check it on your nail. So if you come at it, here and it sticks.
Don't cut your fingers off.
Yeah, it's just a gentle thing. It's not a whack. It's just, and if it makes a shaving, ooh, that's pretty good. I don't recommend with knives doing the hair thing. Not with these. They're not designed to do that.
So we have two questions in the chat. One.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, that's much better. One question is, if diamond plates don't ever have to be flattened, why you use water stones at all?
You don't. Yeah.
But why would you choose a water stone over a diamond plate?
I think you have, when you get into the grits, is 6,000 to 8,000. They are much finer.
Okay.
You will get a better edge, but you don't necessarily need them with these type of knives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kind of Western, I'll just call them Western knives. Now.
So the other question from Mark is, how can you tell if your stones you have are water stones or oil stones?
Good question. So oil stones are almost always called something like Arkansas oil stones. They'll be dark gray. They'll be, I'm being very general here, but they are smaller, the ones that I've seen. I'm sure they make them very big too, because they've been making Arkansas stones forever. You can sharpen a variety of machines and different types of bits, but you'll usually see on Arkansas stones, they say Arkansas stones,
okay,
or Norton Arkansas stones,
sure,
or something of that. They're labeled pretty well. So that's a good question, because you definitely don't want to use oil on water stones. You can use water on oil stones, but if you put oil on water stones, you'll destroy them.
When in doubt, use water.
Huh?
When in doubt, use water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, Tony wants to know if you can demonstrate the butterfly knife set. That's some point. Those things.
How's that? Was that good?
I think he wants to know how to use them for sharpening, but
Okay. I can show him because I got this little guy.
Oh yeah, baby knife.
So yeah, these kind of come in medium. Well, we bought them in coarse, fine, and very fine. They're always usually labeled somewhere on the thing anyway. But these are some DMT stones. But I'll take this little guy. Same kind of principle. But the nice thing about it, once again, you can use these for garden tools a little more. But basically, I've got a thing of water over here. But you can, this thing's so flexible. How's that? Come in here.
So you're moving the sharpening stone over the knife instead of vice versa.
Right. And the reason why I'm doing that, if you can see, this thing is so flexible that I'm actually putting my finger behind there and creating a spine and doing it that way. I guess you could do it this way. Oh, maybe you could do this way. Never really tried.
But you are flexing the knife significantly.
Yeah, it's really, if you can't see it on camera, it is flexing a lot. I tried this little guy. My wife was like, here, I love this knife. Why don't you sharpen this up? It's like, I tried it a long time ago. It's such a pain in the butt that, but I'll,
What do you use that knife for?
I think she uses it for paring strawberries because it's really good for getting in there. I mean, I guess you could use it for all kinds of things.
Very fancy.
Yeah. People use all.
Tony says just buy a new one. Those things are dirt cheap.
Dude, I don't know.
Okay, so we have one other question.
Yeah.
The question is from Chad. I've been told it matters which way the blade is running across the stone, like if it's leading edge first or cutting edge first, or like if you're leading with the cutting edge or you're trailing with the cutting edge. Is that important? Because right now you're trailing the cutting edge. When you flip it over, you're leading.
I think you have to get used to both.
Okay.
Unless you can flip it in your hand and work it this way. So
is there a preference? Is there a better?
I don't think so. Once again, I think it's more of a consistency thing than anything. I've never been told or corrected, so oh yeah, that works. So those worked really well. That thing, wow, that's pretty good. That's just a touch up.
Which is your finest of those three butterflies?
The green, very fine. So this you can definitely see if you could see this edge. I don't know if you can. You can really see this sharpens up really fast, which means it's probably a real cheap steel, which means it really dulls very fast. But good enough for strawberries for now.
Madeline wants to know if you can use those small ones for scissors as well.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I think they're designed for stuff like that. Okay. Yeah. They're really neat. They come in handy.
I have a double-sided one that I got at Home Depot. Okay, that's not bad.
Cool. All right, so we're going to go to probably what I think I recommended to you guys is this double edge or double-sided. Yeah, we'll use it. What the heck? Sharpening stone, which is a great general, just kick around the shop kind of stone if you need it. This one's a really rough one. This is like 600 and 1,000, which will be fine. I generally sharpen the knife I'm going to do now, high carbon steel ones up to 6,000, but that's about it. All right. So once again, okay to soak these things in water. I'm just going to clean them up. There's a little bit of sand. Oh, look at that. Murakami Sensei showed us this technique. I just don't want any kind of residual sand on there. But so high carbon steel or Japanese knives. The big distinguishing factor in design is Japanese knives will generally have a flat, especially sushi knives, something that you really, really want to sharpen up to a very fine cutting edge, have a flat and hollow grind on one side and have a long flat bevel on the other side.
This is worth trying as well. Yeah. That's the paper you should be trying to cut. Try to cut the whole thing.
That's very, what do you call it? Anyway, Japanese knife. So usually, let's see if I can draw this.
You're just doing a cross section?
Yeah, it's hard to draw a cross section.
Well, I think it'd be nice in order to demonstrate like the flat, hollow, flat, and the single long bevel.
Okay, good idea. So if we look kind of down the plane of the knife like that, on the flat side, it's going to have a hollow, much like a Japanese chisel, for two reasons. It's easier to keep flat and to flatten, but also when you are writing it on the flat of a stone, you have a lot less material here, therefore you have a lot less resistance. And easier to keep flat.
In Japanese hand planes, I know that they say the hollows are also really good so that there's less friction on the wood.
Yeah.
Is that also true with a knife, with less friction on whatever you're cutting? Or the thing you're cutting?
The hollow is actually with a Japanese plane, it's on the bottom of the piece of wood. There's a cavity there, but not on the plane blade. The plane blade is there for sharpening, not for the glide.
Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of similar principle,
okay.
A little different. So on the end of the knife, on the other side of the knife here, let's see, flat, hollow, flat, sharp, bevel, and it comes like that. So if I'm looking down the end of the knife like that, it's going to look
cross section.
Yeah. Here's the hollow, flat part, and then there's a single wide bevel.
And it's very exaggerated, but that's
yeah. Does that make sense?
I hope so.
All right.
Put it in the chat if you don't understand.
So I'm just going to really quickly, because I know the back is really flat because I've done it.
So you're going to rough stone?
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to use that rough stone. It's got weird texture to it. So it looks funny. So I'm just going to go to this. And once again, I'm going to angle this.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. I hadn't tipped the camera yet.
and this, I'm actually going to angle the stone a little bit because I want to be able to get this heel.
And this, you're on the flat side with the hollow grind.
Correct.
So the edge is touching as well as the back of the blade is touching.
So I'm just hitting this a little bit also. I'm not going to sharpen that forever. You know, if you keep your knife sharp anyway, you shouldn't have to do that. I'm going to flip it, re-angle, and now this is where you can really feel that edge. Unlike the Western knives, there's a big bevel there. So you can really feel that. And instead, you know, I was kind of coming off, landing and coming off here. I can just ride that thing the whole time. And then also, kind of the neat thing about Japanese knives, you do have a really hard high carbon steel on the edge usually, and then a softer piece of steel here. And
if you can see that,
I think you probably can. If you can see that, you've got a really good kind of illustration, or it really shows up, I should say, on that edge. So I think it's much easier to see and sharpen that way. And I don't know if you probably can't see this, but you can really definitely see the fine lines of where I sharpen with this rubber stone at this point. I'm going to grab the finer stone. We'll use this size since it's just kind of got the old. This is actually desirable. It's not bad to have the old metal on there, but just so you guys can see the metal coming off, I'm going to change.
You're on the flat side once again here. right?
Yeah, flat side again. Touch it up. Once again, I'm not trying to flatten this again. It's already been flattened. Generally, when you get these knives, they're pretty flat. And then here. Oh, by the way, these mats are really good. I think they're carpet mats you put underneath carpets, but they're really good for this kind of thing.
But you could just use a wet rag.
Yep, wet rag. And then be real careful when you do that kind of stuff. Don't cut yourself. It's gonna work.
Okay. Almost.
Couldn't believe it. Oh, that was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Much sharper. Yeah, these guys sharpen up really easy, but they're really designed to be super sharp.
It's like watching a live infomercial.
Except we're not trying to sell you anything.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So, the one thing you're real limited to, I get this question once in a while. Anything serrated, you can't do with these stones. These have to be professionally done with a super,
and that's a kind of a piece of crap knife anyway.
Yeah, this thing, piece of crap. I don't know why my wife keeps this thing. Maybe I'll just leave it here so people can use it in the shop for cutting wood.
Cutting wood?
Yeah.
Doubt it.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? That's kind of all I have for right now.
Tony says, honey, I lost it.
Huh?
Tony says, honey, I lost it.
Okay. So we've been, Kobe kind of found this somewhere. His friend does this, but I kind of mentioned that stones are basically this amalgamation of ceramic and high pressure and pushed together. And, so his friend got the idea is, why don't you try to sharpen your knife on the bottom of a coffee cup? Because basically it is ceramic, heated to a high pressure. It's been vitrified, so it becomes kind of this stone-like thing. I guess that's what they call a stoneware. So we're going to give that a try on our Rogue One Star Wars cup. I did try this about 10 minutes before the demo, and it kind of worked, but I'm going to see if it still works. So far, one of the problems I see is definitely I've seen people on the internet try to hold it and sharpen, which is just like nuts to me. Even if you use this as a little guard, the hand thing, I wouldn't recommend it. So we kind of jerry-rigged this little thing using a wood parallel clamp and another clamp to hold this thing steady while I try to sharpen this. But basically with any kind of ceramic mug, you have a little area on the bottom that basically doesn't have a coating on it, have a shell ceramic, or basically coating on it, and you can supposedly use this for sharpening. Now, one of the nice things about this, on the bottom of a cup, you all automatically have this little reservoir, so you can just easily put water on it. So that's kind of nice. And since I'm not 100% convinced of this, I'm going to use like this cheap, beat-up fish knife.
It's very cool, though.
Which I don't, well, I kind of care about it because it's my grandfather's, but anyway, I don't care if I ding it up, really, because it's been through, a lot of fishes, opening a lot of fishes. And by the way, this is a little quiz. Does anybody know what this little spoon on the back of the handle is? So while I sharpen, you guys can.
Naomi and Joe both say that their moms do this in a pinch to sharpen knives.
Really?
Yes. And
that's great.
Tony's asking, is this for an eye scoop?
No.
No.
Well, not necessarily. All right.
William also guessed eyes. No.
So I think in the kitchen, like this would be really good in a pinch. You don't have stones. I mean, I definitely was getting metal. Oh yeah, there's like metal being cut.
The main difference is you have so much less surface area, right?
Right.
Because your surface area is just that tiny ring around the cup rather than being the whole stone.
Exactly. I mean, if I didn't have my my bifocals on right now, I don't think I'd be able to see this edge.
Is it for scooping? Is it for scooping bait? That was Joe's guess.
Close, but no. Scooping bait. That's a small bait. It's really tiny. I like the eyeball one though. You could scoop an eyeball. Ooh, that's not bad. All right, almost there. All right. Should we try it?
Should we try the cardboard honing?
Cardboard?
That was the other thing that they did on the video, was honing with cardboard.
Right. You want to get some of that stuff you put on the wheel for sharpening.
Where's that?
Oh, okay. Rouge. So the other thing they green. No, whatever. It doesn't matter. So the other thing the guy did, kind of beyond the sharpening here as a touch-up, is he actually used cardboard to hone, which I think is bullshit. But oh shit, maybe not. Hone the blade.
Madeline says treating yourself to caviar.
Huh?
That's what the scoop is for. It's for caviar.
No.
Well on your lake.
No. So I'm gonna try this. I put a little rouge on, just as a little bit of abrasive. Shit, I don't know how to do this.
So more commonly, at least for carving knives, you would use a leather strop rather than a cardboard strop.
Right.
But you'd still use sharpening compound or honing compound.
It is way shinier than when I started, so this is looking plausible, as they would say in Mythbuster land.
I think Willie wants to know what the scoop is for. It's just
A couple more guessing. A few more minutes. Okay, let's see. For dramatic effect.
Oh, that
no.
was terrible.
Well, this knife has a bunch of chips in it. Oh, that was better. It does have a bunch of chips in it.
Not bad.
Not bad. This was not that sharp before.
You have to do before and after. If you're a true infomercial, you have to
That's
do
true.
before.
Yeah. Plausible. And this is for scooping fish guts. So you slice it open and you
While you're being very careful not to stab yourself in the gut.
Exactly. So, because once again, when you're gutting fish for, your charter guests, you have to be fast. So you have to gut it and then scoop it. That's what it's for. That's what I saw him do.
Very good. Don't do that. That's bad practice. You can chip the end of your knife.
Questions?
Anybody have questions? Also, feel free to just unmute yourself and say something at this point.
Yeah.
If you have that power.
Do we have to give him the power?
No, I think
You could give it to him.
I could.
Just curious. Hey, Hayami.
Yes.
Using the stones, do you use the same technique for sharpening chisels or other tools?
Slightly. So we'll demonstrate that in, 2 weeks?
Probably something like that, yeah. I think the schedule is for 2 weeks from now is chisel sharpening.
Yeah, so chisel sharpening can be more difficult because you really want to keep both sides, well, the flat side flat, but that bevel side needs to be really flat too. And when you first begin, you're going to round it over like that. And it's not horrible, but you will not get as clean of a cut with chisels if it is like that.
And you sure as shit can't do it on a coffee mug.
Yeah, you definitely can. I don't think. I've never tried it.
Well, because there's
Maybe
not enough
we'll try
surface
it.
area. You wouldn't be able to keep it flat
Oh yeah, you're right.
because you have that just a little bit of
Yeah, so never mind. You can't do it with a cup.
knives only.
So there
I
are
know a
some similar
woodworker.
techniques, but it's definitely a different motion, and you'll see my whole body is different when I sharpen chisels.
What was the other question?
I know a woodworker who has a hollow grind on his chisel bevels so that it's easier to find the edge when he's sharpening.
Yep. So that's one of the techniques. We'll probably do that ahead of time. I could probably show it during the demo. Is to put a little hollow grind, I don't have a chisel, but on the sharp bevel side, so you can, once again, it's much easier to ride that tip and heel and keep it flat.
Similar.
Matter of fact, you can leave that.
Similar to this Japanese knife you were doing.
Yeah, you can leave that. You can leave that hollow in there. It's no big deal. It's not going to hurt the chisel at all. But you cannot do that with Japanese chisels. You'll break them. You'll de-lam them.
And they already have a hollow.
But they only have it
on
the
the
back.
flat. Yeah, on the flat side.
I had a question for the keeping your stones flat. Where what was the grit you were using, like on the glass? Where can we get that?
Oh, so this is 180 or 220, but you can use carborundum. That's another one. Carborundum, like 120 grit, which is fine. I mean,
this is just water jet abrasive though, yeah?
Yep, this is water jet abrasive, which you can find anywhere at MIT. But
Is it new or used water jet abrasive?
it's new. I didn't scoop it off the floor because I didn't want to get other stuff in there.
Oh, okay.
You can use playground sand. It's not that big a deal. You do want it somewhat consistent. You don't want big pebbles in there because then you'll scratch your stones.
So Will is asking, do you have preference for so-called super steels, like the compressed powdered metals used in a lot of modern pocket knives? Do you know anything about this?
I've never tried it.
I've done a lot of research on this recently. I bought myself a set of water stones, and I don't have many fancy kitchen knives, but I have a couple pocket knives that I like to care for. And there's like an opinion for every person on every forum that you look on for that stuff. Some people swear by diamond stuff for them. Some people say natural only. Some people say, one thing or another or a combination. So I was curious if you had any experience with it.
If I have, and there's only, I think, a Swiss Army knife and another pocket knife, I've used something like this just because it's small.
Yeah.
These kind of just overkill. I mean, you could use it. If you have it, just use it. Water stones, I've never tried them on. Stuff like that with double edges or, like kitchen knives and probably pocket knives, I would stick to the diamond stones.
Okay, thanks.
Because I don't want to gouge. It's just me because I'm paranoid of gouging the stones, even though, I can flatten them again, but if I have these, I'm just going to use them.
Sure. Cool. Thanks.
But my grandfather and my dad had an oil stone. They never flattened that thing, and it's the only. It was dished out like this, and that's all they used for sharpening their tools. So if you have something like that,
Woodworking tools as well?
no, just their pocket knives.
knives.
Yeah, and that's what they said. So we just sharpened our pocket knives, and I think my grandfather told me he sharpened his fishing hooks on them too. Could be bullshit, but I don't know. He's dead.
It's certainly less important to have a flat stone for knives than it is for woodworking tools.
Definitely for chisels.
Yeah.
And you'll find out why when I show you some of the effed up chisels we have.
Even after the Japanese woodworking and sharpening classes that we did this winter.
Yeah.
I suppose if you have your stone has a hollow in it, then you can find a section of the hollow that matches the curve of your pocket knife blade.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That might be more trouble than it's worth.
Oh,
Cool. Anybody else have? We've got like scheduled 7 more minutes, but anybody else have anything to add or mention, knife related or not? No. All right.
I've got a comment.
All right. What's up?
I've got a Spyderco V. It's kind of a V-shaped thing that 2 stones stick up, and then you just hold the blade vertical and you cut one side or the other, and it controls the angles for you. I think there's a standard name for it. It's not unique to Spyderco. It's an old tool. But
Yeah. Those are.
And it sharpens both sides at once.
Yeah.
No, just one side at a time. But you hold the blade vertical. The V sticks up into the air, and then you do one side or the other.
Huh.
Oh, they're like honing stones.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's the same principle as honing, but those may actually be, some kind of ceramic stone. So you may be sharp well.
Yeah. And
I think they would work fine. It's just one of those things. It's what you get used to.
Yeah.
Right. And when the knives are really bad, I have some diamond ones that go into the same jig for the V.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Unfortunately, 2 years ago, I sharpened all the knives. I always sharpen the knives for Thanksgiving, and we had a guest. She sliced her hand open doing the dishes. It was pretty sad.
Clean cut though.
Oh, it was clean as could be.
Joe's asking if we're going to post the recording somewhere. I missed the first 5 minutes of the recording because I forgot, but we will make it public somehow soon, yes. Tony wants to know if ceramic knives are any good.
I don't know. I've never used one.
Yeah, me neither.
I've never used a ceramic knife.
I have one that I've used for cutting onions. It cuts really well, but it's really important to read the scary warnings on the package.
What's the scary warnings?
If you get anywhere near a bone, the edge will chip and put deadly sharp pieces of ceramic in your food.
Yeah,
Ooh.
that's not.
Whoa. That doesn't happen with metal.
No.
Yikes. There you go, Sonia. That does. Buyer be warned. Yikes, do not buy.
What grit do you recommend for a kitchen knife for a whetstone?
Oh, so I think I wrote down the 3,000 and 6,000 up to 6,000, or it might be 3,000. No, I'm sorry.
1,000, 6,000?
800 to 4,000. That was it. That's a combination stone. So some of the combination stones like this, they're pre-made like this. Like this is 400, 1,000. This is too rough in my opinion. You may not need anything.
The rough
more
side
than
is
that.
too rough.
Yeah, but this one's kind of neat. This one's super cool. This tiny one. Did you get this from?
I don't know where that one came from.
Oh.
The other one you were just picking up is the one I got from
This one's super cool, and this is probably probably starts at 1,200, and this is at least 6,000. But this is tiny.
I think that one might be Remy's.
It was Remy's.
Tony says there's a different way to required for sharpening ceramic knives, and Noemi wants to know if there's a knife brand that you recommend for cooking.
What kind of knife?
For cooking?
No, Western or Japanese.
Good question. I don't know.
What do I have? I don't even know what I have. This one's a Gerber, and this is held up really well. This is giant. I mean, honestly, I use this for cutting pizza most of the time.
Wow, dude.
That's not good.
Bobby's curious about.
But I like these Wusthoffs because they've got a really good weight.
Okay.
But the handles are a little square. So I think there's another German brand that are nice as well. Oh no, this is a Henkel. So the Wusthoffs for a Western.
Bobby wants to know if do you want your knife to be very sharp? Do you need a period of time or both?
I mean, you shouldn't have to sharp.
A rough stone just isn't going to get you a sharp edge ever, right?
It will get you. It depends what you're cutting and how much you're cutting. So the finer. So if you're cutting raw fish, you definitely need as sharp as a knife as you can.
And for that, you would need a very fine grit stone.
Right. So the finer grit stone you would have, like this, for this is perfectly fine, you know. And I think what I usually take it up to, they literally call it, I don't know what grit it is. They call it fine, super fine, ultra fine. I usually take it up to fine, and it cuts everything generally in the kitchen I want. Tomatoes, fine. Anything else, easy. But if I'm doing a very special thing, I need to use, you know, for deboning. That's the other thing. If you're deboning chicken or beef, you want a really sharp knife.
All meat is bouncy.
So I would take it up.
Cool.
No, you can't do fish with.
I think the general takeaway from that is though, you're not going to get it as sharp with a rough grit stone as long as you can sharpen it forever. Knife disappears and you still don't have it as sharp. Yeah. You need a fine grit to get a sharp edge.
Anything else?
Anything else? We got a couple minutes, or we might shut down. Tony says thanks. Bobby says thanks. Sounds like we're good.
Welcome.
Did anyone bring show and tell?
I was there 15 minutes early. Nobody said anything. Actually, somebody showed a couple of spoons that they're working on.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
More of that next week, probably.
Okay.
Do you have something, Mark?
No.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We'll send out the link to the video sometime soon.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, you're gonna just end it on this other thing.
What?
I think you have to end it from
Thank you.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh.
Thanks.